Sell time, yeah. So Corus is an employee analytics SaaS platform product that provides decision-making intelligence that lets companies make informed decisions about well-being and cultural investment. So it combines organizational data with employee sentiment and turns those figures into economic ROI. So this demo is a little bit more sort of product focused, and we are going to jump onto the actual product such as it is in a little bit. So I just want to do a very quick whistle-stop tour through the other bits about the business. So machine learning, SaaS analytics, future workplace. We got a 50K Innovate UK Fast Start grant last autumn to help develop the underlying technology, which I'll talk about in a minute. And yeah, we're basically thinking about helping companies perform better by understanding the impact that their wellbeing programs or general culture is having on their staff. So it started by my co-founder, George, who's on holiday, and myself running a wellbeing business, which was based around music, choirs, and that kind of thing in offices. And we found that people really loved it, and it was very transformational, or lots of good stuff, except often it was the first thing to be cut when companies were scaling back. And often these things weren't renewed, despite lots of good qualitative feedback. So we started looking into how to demonstrate the economic impact that these things were having. So first of all, things like reducing absence or improving productivity and that kind of thing. And that's how Corus came about. So as I mentioned, there's me and my co-founder. In terms, I'm more on the product side, he's more on the business development and usually demo side. We've also got a data scientist from Bristol University who's been helping us build a model, and my brother, among others, kind of helping us on the development side of things, which we'll look at in a minute. So yeah, as I mentioned, this is SaaS analytics. We're demonstrating credible financial return. It works with any kind of interventional program, from one-off things to EAPs to massage in the chair to flexible working, just understanding what is the economic impact in terms of changing well-being of these things. When, as I mentioned, we were running the workplace choir business, we had an app that helped collect data and support choirs, and I built that in a sort of low-code way, moved on to sort of incorporating exit polls and that kind of thing. Then we were thinking about implementing wellbeing programs generally, and then we focused most recently just specifically on looking at economic impact. So we're interested in putting wellbeing on the balance sheet, a line in the profit and loss, communicating impact and value in the language of the CFO, and obviously in doing so, moving wellbeing up the corporate agenda. So our general, the central idea of Corus is that costs go down as well-being goes up, and performance goes up as well-being goes up. And these are subjective well-being metrics. There's a huge amount of science that basically verifies this, with the government review from 2011 saying that there's fairly strong causal links. So it's not just saying they're correlated, it's saying actually well-being causes these things to go up. So what we do is we incorporate some publicly available data, which could include things like ONS, and you can read the slides, company data, so that might be things like stuff that they already have, engagement survey. Then we bring in the subjective surveying. We put this together in terms of looking at the contemporary research and our own historical data, and turn that into a figure for ROI. So I'm keen to just sort of rush on so we can get to the actual product in the time. As I said, and as each time we add more data, we're able to have more and more accurate understanding of what the impact is. So that's a key bit. So we might say, oh, it's software and it's in the Southwest, great. And then we get some more data about what's the absence rates like, what's the engagement like, and then we incorporate the rest of it, getting a better and better understanding. As the model does that, it gets better. Lots of traction, lots of people very interested, a few clients as well. Yeah, again, this is slightly more of the sort of the pitch bit, so I'm just going to run through. We've got this plan ahead. We have our roadmap. Looking for our investment, looking for a big raise coming up. So I'm just going to quickly go ahead to this. Can everyone see that? Okay, great. So this might be from some initial data, as I mentioned. So it might be a bit quick public data and some company data, you might get an initial sort of snapshot, and this is the cost to a fictional company through absenteeism, presenteeism, turnover, which are kind of the big three costs for organizations to the cost of poor mental health to organizations. You might want to compare that. So that would just be saying, here's a point in time based on the data we have, this is what we'd expect those costs to be. Then you would, after some amount of time, or you're looking at some specific intervention, you might then have a ROI. I've just got to move the Zoom. Sorry. So then you'd have a breakdown of that ROI. So this might be, say, so we're also interested in the B2B2B market. And so this might be a wellbeing service provider. They might be able to say, look, here's the beginning and here's the end. This is the breakdown. And then as we get deeper and deeper into the science and understanding of how these things work, we might say, these are the ways in which these things have changed. So social connectedness might have gone up. These three things on the right here, burnout, organization support, and social connectedness, have specific questions and frameworks, ways of understanding what's happening for them. And then we're sort of also interested in tracking the value of a wellbeing investment over time, but I'm sure I've gone quite far over my time now, Stu, so I think I'll just...
Only 90, 120 seconds, that kind of thing, nothing big.
Great.
Is there any last thing you want to show us?
No, I think I could go back to the kind of roadmap parts of the plan, but I think it was more interested in basically setting the scene and then and letting people have a little look at the product as such as it is at the moment.
Okay, well, let's turn to Pedro and see what his Portuguese CEO, worked in lots of companies kind of brain does with this one. Pedro.
Congrats, Greg. I really appreciate it. I really like your idea. My problem is, you are a thermometer, so you can give me my temperature. But can you actually recommend me things? Because I can see the results of the things I'm doing, and we could discuss how to validate the way the machine learning is using data. Let's assume that's not an issue. And if I buy this solution, I can see, well, this is the impact of the things I'm doing in my company in terms of my, I would say, old-fashioned metrics, okay? But it's like looking into the past. How do you use this to help me look into the future? Is there any recommendation? Are you partnering with specific providers in these areas? This is one of the questions I have another first time, but let's start by this one. How do you help me not just look into the results of the previous decisions, but help me to make better ones?
That's such a great CEO question, Pedro, and I love the way you framed that as well. You're a thermometer to tell me my temperature. I love it. Greg, what are you going to do with this?
It's a fantastic question, and it's basically kind of, as you say, we can tell you a lot about what's happened. But the thing that even in the kind of social science and psychological research that exists in terms of well-being in workplace contexts, of which there is a huge amount, specifically understanding interventions is something that there's very little about. It's the kind of the last bit, the last sort of, so to be able to say a specific intervention is sorry, there's a bit of noise. To say that the specific intervention would be recommended for a certain, so you might say this is an organization which is particularly burned out or disconnected or that kind of thing, and the data that we've processed already is allowing us to say, therefore, and this is the kind of intervention that you would need to have for that. So it's as we begin, it's going to be much more what you said. It's going to be much more saying, how did this thing affect it? Okay, so we can look in the past, but then as we get more and more data, we'll be able to increasingly accurately say, this is the kind of intervention that you would need now. So it might not just be, flexible working or something else. It might be something quite specific. It might be something that the profile of that organization in terms of how, burned out they are, stressed they are, disconnected they are, or whatever that is. Or, if you're looking particularly for increasing creativity and that kind of thing, then we'll have the data to say which interventions are actually relevant for that.
For another one?
Absolutely.
Are you planning to partner with entities like providers of machines from gymnasiums or whatever. Okay, I'm not just trying to be specific. So you can benefit from getting their data. So you can, merge into the big pots that you are using for your machine learning.
Absolutely,
and improve the model.
Absolutely, yeah. So as I said, our beachhead market is the kind of B2B2B. We're really interested in kind of having a sort of API or sort of layer connection where all of the things they do are going to be collecting that data for us anyway. Obviously we don't want to have, we want to be impartial and credible, but something in the kind of, Trustpilot realm where you're basically able to say, Trustpilot of wellbeing interventions or programs or something where there's basically a way of being credible as a third-party provider without necessarily seeming like, it's only, it makes it legitimate.
Because let me just say one phrase. Because, for example, I know a company that pays gymnasium to all employees, but they don't know if people really attend. They know if they attended, but they don't know how they use the time. So you can put the flag for gymnasium, check.
Yeah.
But then no exercise or just heavy lifting or whatever, Yeah. There's no, and so you cannot see the real connection between the activity and the impact on the company. That's not just the idea. Okay, again.
Well, we're talking about well-being accounting, so it feels only right and proper that we pop to the accountant now and ask her for her Oxford-based brain to see what she can do with it. So, Rachel, what would you do with this one?
So my initial comment, my brain immediately went to the fact one of my friends now runs a well-being business, and she used to be an accountant, and she's still a leading light in the ACCA. So I thought actually she'd absolutely adore this, because it would, for well-being companies, it would absolutely empirically prove. As you say, it would validate what they're doing and give them some, they will want numeric and science-based evidential stuff to put out there, rather than just saying, honestly, your business will be better if your employees are better.
Exactly.
Although it seems self-evident, they would be absolutely crying out for this sort of data. So I think in terms of your strategy, there's definitely a couple of different routes in. Because actually partnering with some of the wellbeing companies potentially, I think, would be a good route in. That's not really a question, that's more an observation. As a business owner, one of the things that we're always beset with is having too many systems. And so I was wondering, is this intended to be a standalone system, or are you looking to have it integrated into other more general HR systems, financial systems, and so on, so that we haven't got another tab we've got to open?
As you say, not another tab. In fact, there's no employee engagement with it whatsoever. Ideally, there's no reason for them. So it would be either through engagement with the wellbeing service provider, as you mentioned, that data would be collected, or through the HRIS system, or any number of ways. But there's no sort of, here's the thing you have to log in and put that data in. So the thing that in terms of the sort of science that underpins a lot of it is that there's a very high level of sort of I think it's called interoperability between these metrics. So even if you just sort of get 5 or 6, you'll end up with nearly as good as an accurate picture as if you had sort of 15 metrics that you were asking about. So I think we're really going for just get a bit of data, through any number of these ways. So either directly, whether that's in a session, in a choir session, or whether that's through an email or through engagement surveys that are already happening. So that obviously there's some work that needs to be done in terms of thinking about how all of those bits would happen. But yeah, that's absolutely right. Light touch, no, not another app.
Okay, that's cool. My other question, slightly aside from that, is who are your intended customers? What size of business? What sort of workforce are you looking at?
Well, as I for half a second showed on the roadmap, we've basically got we're looking B2B in the longer term, so with enterprise businesses and the companies that will have obviously a huge amount to save. In the more short to medium term, we are looking at working B2B2B and working with wellbeing providers, and those often will be platforms who might already have a lot of customers. So there might be sort of things like EAPs or Headspace and Calms and that sort of thing. Generally with at least kind of 500,000 in turnover or something like that, so that they're able to have enough data to immediately demonstrate the sort of significant impact that they're having. Through our own wellbeing networks, we've sort of spoken to everyone from kind of individual mindfulness and yoga practitioner right up to sort of those names I mentioned, the kind of bigger platforms, and obviously sort of thinking about how to work with all of them. But yeah, the beachhead is definitely the providers themselves, who are all of our inbound leads that get on the traction. They've all come to us because of how much they want it.
Cool.
All right, well, let's turn to Tiana for the product officer head, the Serbian perspective, the kite surfer that you are. Tell us, what do you want to do with this well-being thing? And then we'll go to Medita to reflect like a founder.
Yeah, I'm thinking, how do I start with this? Is there some kind of guide, wizard, step by step? How do I know which kind of systems I need to connect to your platform? The service, for example, what kind of service and when to send? Basically, how do I start? Do I need to get like your consulting on this, and then it's some custom approach, or the platform would be leading me?
At the moment, we're working more on a kind of case-by-case consultative approach with the different providers, and it's almost just like there's a spreadsheet of the questions that you need to ask. There is, I didn't get around to showing it, but there is a sort of a functionality on the platform for just uploading a pre-formatted spreadsheet, which is just going to be to understand the sort of before and after impact. Certainly the integration in terms of simple kind of APIs that will plug into HRIS systems and whatever else is in the longer term plan. But yeah, at the moment we're more just about trying to get people to give us that data, and then they can have their own sort of personalized dashboard to just see the first step, which is just going to be what's the impact of this particular interventional program that I did. But yeah, we're sort of raising money to build that capability on the more automated end.
I see. But do you think that some kind of wizard would help, like step by step, guiding the user through different phases?
A user guide, did you say? Sorry.
Like a UI that works as a wizard. So I have some certain steps. So here is what I do with the survey based on these results. The suggested step is this, and then I continue, so that the platform leads me from one step to another.
Yeah,
feasible.
That would be useful.
So right now, how much work do you have when you're onboarding a new client? So you need to integrate the APIs from the systems they have and all this approach. So how much work do you really have with onboarding a new client?
Well, it's reasonably, at the moment, we're just saying, here are the questions that you have to answer. And then, so we give them that spreadsheet, and then it's fairly minimal at the moment. They just basically create an account, and then that account is sort of manually assigned. So it's kind of manual assisted kind of MVP at the moment. So then they can log in, and then they can see specifically that data that they've sent us being visualized in terms of how the Corus engine works. So at the moment, it's really like,
for MVP, it's perfect. I'm just wondering, in order to scale, how feasible it is to create some kind of a wizard for the user. And another thing is, when you were talking to your potential customers, these internal systems they use, is it mostly the same systems they use, so you can already pre-prepare the API integration in a way, or it's like each time it's a set of new tools that you are seeing?
Well, we have been talking about having something which is generic enough to fit with some wider range of systems, but at the moment we are just looking at a first proof of concept with a couple of like Workday and a couple of other HRIS systems and that kind of thing. But I think there'll be a lot of kind of, because it's not sort of going to be dozens of times a day that the data is being, to begin with, uploaded, so it's going to just be a lot of manual operation to begin with.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, that was my comment. I think it would be nice to have some kind of a wizard that guides me on this journey.
Yeah, good. Thank you very much for that.
Sure.
Thanks, Tiana. Before I turn to Medita, I've got a comment here from Carlos in the chat. So he says, seems like a great tool. Did you consider call center industry, as it is one of the organizations where this could have a really valuable impact? And I think that sort of really encapsulates a bit of feedback that I was going to give, which is, it doesn't seem very clear who the compelled innovator group is that you're trying to get to first. You know, these kind of early adopters usually have a big problem when you sort of talk generically about well-being and helping people work out what the temperature is, right? But not, okay, here's a group that's got a real big well-being problem, and therefore we're here to take the temperature and give them some recommendations. So what do you think about call centers, Greg?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that was one of the customers we had in the wellbeing business was call centers. But yeah, the idea, they do, as you say, have a dense kind of employee group, and that those kind of small changes and things like reducing absence and presenteeism and that kind of thing would obviously have a big impact. So that's a good idea. Thank you very much.
And they care about the mirror, right? The mirror of energy on the call to satisfaction of the caller, that kind of thing. And
yeah.
One of their in-residence team is actually part of the Foundiva family. So that used to be called, what did it used to be called? Cytel. They have like 200,000 call center operators all around the world. Could be really good to chat with Ori about this and just see what she thinks if you haven't done already.
Yeah, I haven't done. That would be great. Yeah.
Okay, so Medita, as a founder watching Greg do this stuff, what do you think today?
No, great stuff. Thanks, Greg, and good luck. I think that's a really important area of work. Just I guess a comment was, I think just on a storytelling point of view, could have really enhanced to say sort of the problem owner a bit more strongly, and how you're sort of really pulling out the benefits of adopting this, and how that's going to really, you know, change the culture of that organization essentially. Yeah, but I mean, and the demo was quite cool to see that it's, you know, it's live and working. That's something you can actually go to somebody and start working right away. So that's from me, Stu. That's more of a comment.
Fantastic.
Thanks,
Well, my university lecturer brain has been kicking around while you've both been talking as well, and I'm not quite sure how to frame what I'm going to say, but I was thinking about it. If you were in my class on the masters and you've given this kind of thing today, what would I be saying to you? And the main thing for both of you is actually the same, which is if you kind of sell the dream of where people will get to if they use your stuff, like what's the better outcome, and you can kind of share that joy and that spark. Like you've sort of started it, Medita, with something about saving money and giving it to nurses or beds or something. It was in there, but kind of like showing that future, giving that little inspiration. It kind of lifts it from being an analytics tool to creating a slightly different world tool. And you've both got the opportunity to do that. And kind of like, I think the joy would carry the message a lot more. So I think if you were in the master's class, I'd probably be saying something like that for your storytelling. What do you think, Pedro? Is that randomly off the mark? What would you do with that?
No, I was going to say something similar. I think you're both are still very, I would say, product centric instead of the beneficiary. Okay, so it's, I was listening to Greg. I was thinking, well, this could be a great tool for service provider in that area to address someone like Rachel and say, hey, if you buy our program or wellness program, you can use this tool and you can have like a 3 months trial period and use this tool to assess it, and later you start paying. And that's just I would say the great part of the story. The beautiful part of the story is not that. And I understood why Medita did not show the video, but I fully agree with you, Stuart, which is you don't. I think both of you are have ideas and real solutions that are existing solutions, not dreams, that can really have a huge impact on real great needs of the present and of the future. And you need to showcase that on a way that not just captivates us, but brings us to the place, to the better world that will exist once we all adopt them. You know, that's the frontier that you need to cross. And of course, you need to do your journey to get there. But I fully agree with you, sir. I think it's, and congratulations, guys. What you're doing is super relevant and super needed. Just progress as fast as you can. And so, as Chuck would say, it's not about you, It's about the other guy that is actually going to buy you or use you.
I'm glad you brought Chuck into
benefits
play
of-
there, Pedro. Well done. Yeah. So Greg, I re-listened to the 1 Minute Manager this week, and he said something in there that is very relevant to you. It's something about more productive employees are happier employees are more productive. They also are more open to learning and more open to evolving. It's kind of like getting that seed across. I think maybe, I don't know if you've read that book, but it's a very short book. It's very easy. It's yeah. Tiana, last thoughts from you, and then Rachel.
Yeah, maybe because I'm a PM, I'm all about the features, but I think in both cases, I wanted to see a bit more about the high level features to understand the product better. So yeah, I agree. We shouldn't be just centered on the product, of course, but in order to understand what you're talking about, I think in both cases, we could have used a little bit more about the features themselves.
You're always so disciplined, Tiana. I love it. I love it.
Yes. What can I do?
All right, Rachel, close us out. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were both very good. Greg, not wanting to pick on you, but for me, it could have been a bit slower. That's nothing to do with your product, but just in terms of presenting to people. You said, I'm going to really whiz through this, and then you really, really did. So I probably missed some of the really valuable stuff you said. I'd rather a presentation went an extra minute over and I could actually hear it and take on board the points. So potentially slow it down. Yeah. I think think about the other person. I definitely put my running a business hat on as soon as you started. And yeah, so what it could do for me, how I could obtain it, yeah, how quickly I could get hold of it, and what it would do, I think would have been the two things as a business owner. But yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, excellent presentations. Obviously, Medita, you and I spent a while talking about yours yesterday, so I don't need to go back through those points really. But no, it's really good to see products out there that are sort of going out and changing the world for the better. So cheers me up to hear that sort of thing.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks, everybody. It's been wonderful to have you here. Thanks, Greg and Medita, for making the effort to kind of pull all this together for today. Wish you every success with your journey. We'll be back in a month for another demo night, and then it's getting really close to what I would like to refer to as a web summit. And I started to get quite excited about November and all the things we're going to do, September, October, and then boom, we're there live and in person. Oh my goodness, that really is quite scary, isn't it? All right, so look forward to seeing you, Pedro, and you're going to be there. Rachel, are you going to make it to this one? I can't remember. Are you coming?
I'm 95% I can make it.
Yes. Okay, and
Still
Tiana,
still
you're
honing a
blanking
couple
us,
of
right?
details.
I'm doing the May one.
Okay.
I have to represent you guys on that one.
We're going to have to stream you
That's
in
my
for that
role.
one. Thanks, everybody. See you in a few weeks.
Congratulations, everybody.